Yeah, this is Thomas again, and this is my second in my series that I like to entitle the entrepreneurial mindset. Because, as you know, entrepreneurs think somewhat differently than the people that work regular jobs, and is my goal and my purpose to help you people that are thinking about doing your own thing, having your own businesses, etc., make that first step away from our jobs when the time is right. And so what I've done is I've gone around and talked to people that I know that are self-employed entrepreneurs and see how they think and what their background is and what led them to be the entrepreneurs that they are today. So this is my buddy. His name is Domingo Reyes, and then I consider him somewhat of a mentor because he's helped me toward my goals of being a self-employed entrepreneur. And I realize that I've known him for several years, but I really don't know a lot about him. So let's talk to Mr. Reyes. And what is your background? What led you to be an entrepreneur? And what did you do before you started your entrepreneurial ventures?
Well, I'm going to take it real early, real go way back, as they say. When I was probably around 11 years old, I mean, we always had some sort of jobs, even as youth, whether it was shoveling snow, cutting grass, all those typical things. But I remember specifically when I was living up in upstate New York, Amsterdam, New York, when um, I started to sell candy bars at school. And I just remember kind of the rush of selling something and then getting a profit in return. I remember going to Kmart, pricing out the candy bars, figuring out what my margins would be, what I would come pocket and profit as well, and then using that to reinvest in more candy, et cetera, et cetera. And so I kind of made a little side hustle at school, selling candy bars, among other things that we did as well. But that kind of got the juices flowing, and I've never stopped since. Even when I've had traditional jobs, I've always had something on the side to supplement our income, and that probably will never stop.
What were your traditional type jobs? What have you done besides your entrepreneurial
Uh,
efforts?
I worked as a cook, as a chef. I've worked as a banker. I was in a call center. I was a call center supervisor for a major bank, and I'm also a pastor of a church as well.
Okay. Are you currently employed anywhere else besides your own efforts now?
Right now, no.
Okay. And what was it that gave you the courage? I guess it kind of you kind of explained it to finally make the decision that I'm just going to work for me.
Well, that's all right. Let me rephrase something. I am a pastor, and I do get a salary from that
Okay.
as well. But my main income is from some of our our own efforts. We and I'm talking about my wife and I. We have a few different types of businesses, and mainly most of them are online. I do YouTube, eBay, Amazon, and then some other, a little bit of blogging and a little bit of some other websites such as Zazzle, things doing content creation and getting paid for some of that.
What are some of the benefits that you see from being self-employed, a self-employed entrepreneur, business person?
Well, I like the fact I can be sleeping and still making money.
Hmm.
I mean, it's 24 hours a day. The World Wide Web is 24-hour, 365 days a week. It's always on. It's always open. And so um, when I remember the very first time I did. I made some money on AdSense. AdSense is a means by which you can make money through your website advertising or YouTube video advertising. And so I remember the very first time I made 11 cents. But that 11 cents really opened my eyes to the potential that I could make more. If I could make 11 cents really by doing effort, work one time and then sitting back and then collecting from the content that you created once, then if you continue to multiply that and put more effort in, more time into that, then you could increase that substantially. So that was an eye-opening thing for me, and like I said, It's a beautiful thing that you can go to sleep, you can wake up, and you can kind of monitor, how you did while you were sleeping and the money that you made while you were sleeping.
I have a question because I have had this situation happen myself. What kind of response do you get when you tell people, if you tell people, um, that you are self-employed or you're an internet marketer or whatever it is you call yourself? What kind of responses do you get from people?
Um, and I get a lot of different responses. First of all, some don't understand it at all, so it just kind of goes right over their head. Some are in all of it and also want to learn about it. Um, and I taught a lot of people, as Thomas has already stated. I've helped him and taught him some things as well. But he's one of the exceptions rather than the rule. Most people, when I try to teach them these things, for some reason they don't get it. They don't get it.
And why do you think that is? Because I know I have my opinion on that. My opinion is because, especially in African American communities, there were very few self-employed businessmen. Mostly everyone in my neighborhood had a job, and the few that did, I really remember him. But for example, there was a gentleman. His name was Mr. Jasper. He had laundromats, and the great thing about it was this man only had one hand, and he was able to run a laundromat, move machines around, and he taught me a little bit about messing around with wash machines and all that stuff. But he was like somebody that we all looked up to. Like, here was a black man in the '60s,
Sure.
with two laundromats, one on each corner, and doing very well.
Absolutely.
But besides him, there was no one else I can think of. So we didn't have a lot of examples. So I think what happens when you talk to people about that, all they know is go to school, get a job, and buy yourself a car, home, retire
Sure.
to the good life. You
Right.
know, but in this day and time, that dream is gone.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure you've probably read the book as well, but the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. If you haven't read that book, I would definitely suggest anyone to read that. It's by Robert Kiyosaki, and he talks about exactly that. He had two dads, a biological father, and one that was pretty much his mentor, his best friend's father. But both of them had two different ideas of what was success, what success was. For one, success was exactly as Thomas just articulated, that you would get a job, you would retire at that job, you would take a pension and all those type of things, and just retire afterward on those monies. Where the one, and that's what he calls his poor dad, and his poor dad, by most standards, was a very successful person. But Rich Dad had a different mindset. He was about educating yourself on how to make money, going after that, and then continuing, to open businesses and doing things to be self-sufficient. And as Thomas already stated, that's a fear for some people. I mean, there's a fear and there's a comfort in knowing that your employer is going to provide certain things for you, health benefits, the insurance, all those type of things that they're going to provide for you. But there's also a cap as to how far you can go. In the entrepreneurial, living and mindset, there is no cap. Your only cap is yourself. So you have the potential to do so much more doing it for who's going to take care of you better than you.
That's a great point. Now, speaking of reading, this is a double question. How important is it to educate yourself, and what are some of the other books that you've read that would be helpful in your entrepreneurial pursuits?
Um, Napoleon Hill, Robert Kiyosaki, these some of the authors. Um,
Because I know one of the big ones for me was one of the first books I read that kind of led me onto my path of trying to be self-sufficient was Robert Allen's Multiple Streams of
Multiple
Income.
Streams of Income,
Income, yeah.
yes,
And then
yes.
there's multiple streams of internet incomes.
Right.
But the sidebar a little bit, it was funny listening to your story about what you did as a child.
Yeah.
Exactly the same thing for me. In the '60s, there was a supermarket. We would go to the supermarket. Some of us black kids ever had the mindset of making our own money, and we would load the carts for the white people and they would give us a quarter. Now, back in the 60s, a quarter, you were the man.
Right.
You
Right.
know, with a quarter, you could buy chips, a soda,
Yes.
candy, and a cake.
Yes.
You know, you were the man. And ever since, I've always had something going, even when I was employed, because I worked as a firefighter for
Right.
25 plus years. So it was just unusual. So
Well,
let's do those titles again, real quick.
yeah. Yeah. Well, all right. Think and Grow Rich. Well, I was Napoleon Hill. I was waiting for the title to hit me. Think and Grow Rich. Multiple Streams of Income. Definitely have read that as well and love that as well. Robert Kiyosaki. He has a whole series, Rich Dad Poor Dad series, and really, I really just mainly like the first book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, the original one. Not saying there's no value in the other ones, but that was an eye-opening book. Many of the other ones he'll talk to you about investing styles, things of that nature. But Rich Dad Poor Dad is pretty much just a generic, here's two different philosophies of life, and this is what he did to make riches. The other thing is, you have an internet at your disposal. I have so many people that always ask me questions. How do I do this? How do I do this? I'm a pretty self-sufficient guy, and while I do ask many people questions as well, the first thing I do is I will scour the internet. We have so much information at our disposal. No other generations, we are in an information age right now. You can find a YouTube video, you can find an ebook, you can find so many things that'll tell you exactly what to do. Most things that I learn to do, I learn it from someone who's written an ebook or a YouTube video or some sort of a blog that's described what I need to do. Just this morning I was learning on how to deepen my voice even more. As far as for singing purposes. So much information out there. We have so much at our disposal. There's really no excuse not to know.
Let's talk about fear. I came to your home, beautiful furnishings. Are you afraid that you're not going to be able to pay your bills, pay your mortgage, pay your car note, take care of your wife and children? Do you have that fear?
I don't. I really don't.
So you're saying it's possible to be an entrepreneur and still have, a normal or better than normal life.
Yeah.
Highly possible.
It is possible. It is possible. I mean, I think it's about finding out what you're good at, what you want to do, and then just tapping into that. And then not that, since we're talking about fear, don't be afraid to try. I mean, there's so many things I failed at and continue to fail at. I've got websites out there that I'm paying domain names and all this stuff for that just flopped. And I wasted money on them, or I started out with an idea and just haven't finished it or lost passion in it. But the thing is with me, I'm not afraid to try. I'm not afraid to start it. And anything that and what ends up happening is sometimes you go in one direction and it'll lead you in something completely different. I'll give you an example. When we started on eBay, we started going to auctions. My wife and I started going to different auctions, and we would buy table lots of items and then sell them on eBay. We would sell figurines and different knickknacks and trinkets and things of that nature. Well, I was getting tired of the items breaking because I'm not a great packager, and then but we were still doing it. We were making a profit, and one day I went to purchase a book for myself. As I stated, I'm a pastor, and so I went to purchase a book for myself and realized I bought it for $2 at the farmer's market at a local flea market, and I purchased it for like a couple dollars. And then when I decided I didn't want it, since I was already selling on eBay, I said, I'll just throw it on eBay. Didn't look it up, didn't know the value of it or anything. Next thing you know, I sold it for $100. I mean, I started scratching my head and going, hold on a second. Well, people actually buy books for $100? I mean, I really didn't know. And so that automatically took me in a new direction. And for many years, all I focused on was selling books. and
Yeah.
even in the books, I found my niche in the books in antique books,
Hmm.
because a lot of people, they're not as easy to research. A lot of people didn't want to buy them. I would buy the broken books, and I found out how to repair them correctly. And so I would be going in a different direction than other people and cleaning up. I mean, I've made thousands and thousands of dollars on antique books. And it was a very good thing for a while. But you start off in one direction, don't be afraid. And it'll take you in a completely different direction.
How much support, I don't want to get personal with you, but how much support do you get from your spouse, and was she on board with the entrepreneurial thing? Because I only asked you that because I have had situations where, my wife has spoke to me and said, you know, well, has actually changed. When I first started doing my entrepreneurial things, it was like, well, why don't you think about getting a job? You're having some money issues. I'm like, but I don't like working for anybody anymore, right? Once she saw that I could be very successful at it, she's like, why are you looking for a job?
Yeah.
You know. So where are you at with your spouse without getting too personal
Well,
on that end?
it's not a problem. I think it's the second part. It was the fact that she's, even though I've made some big blunders, I mean, I remember I was day trading for a little while, and took money that she didn't know, and this is early in our marriage, and I lost $25,000, 15,000. Well, really $15,000 money, but 25,000 when I include the gains that I had in there. I had made so much money and then ended up losing all of it. And so and the sad part is I didn't even tell her that I was investing that money at the time until I had made such a nice profit. And the first thing she told me was, pull the money out. And I said, no, I've got this. How do you think I made this much money? I know exactly what I'm doing. And then I had to eat crow on that one. And so that was rough.
Sounds like she's a saint.
That was rough. That was rough. She's a saint, but she didn't sound like a saint sometimes.
Yeah, well, that's because I think we both know that their job is different than ours. They're the home, they're the nest, they're the nurturers, and sometimes we're the chance takers and we're the visionaries, or at least we should try to be.
Yeah.
And sometimes our vision is a little,
Well, what ended up happening was, we just buckled down, went in some different directions, and when she started seeing success in some other areas, I really didn't have a problem. After we got past that, I hadn't gone back to day trading, so that was good. I think if I was going to go back to doing day trading, then we would have had a problem. But because we went in a different direction and she saw success in that, then it's been no problem since. And she's participated and helped me in doing some things and still helping me in doing some things right now.
Well, Pastor, I want to wind this up because we're going on 20 minutes, and a lot of people's attention span is not that great, so we want to try to wind this up. So let's briefly recap. If you think you want to be self-employed, be an entrepreneur, have your own business, some of the things that you need to do are, just run them by me real quick, some of the things you said.
Well, some of the things you need to do is first tap into your passions. What gifts are you good at? What things are you already good at? And then utilizing those things. It's going to be very hard for you to make yourself do something you don't want to do just for money. A lot of things I've stopped doing just because I didn't have a passion doing. I knew I could make money, had made money on doing certain things, but the passion wasn't there. So I have to be, there has to be a desire to do something. So find out what your passion is, what your desire is. Get over that fear. If someone else can do it, so can you. God has given you brilliance and made you, so smart. And tap into that, and get past what everyone else says. The ones that try to bring you down, and then do your due diligence. Look at the laws in your state, in your country, wherever you are. Operate according to those laws. You don't want someone knocking at your door trying to take everything that you started to try to build. And then find a support system. There are a lot of people out there that are willing to give information. I tell a lot of people, I train a lot of people for free. And you may not have that, but there are a lot of people that will support you. Find the entrepreneurs in your area There's some meetup groups, things of that nature that you can find online, and go hang out with people that are already doing what you want to do. That's about it. Stay at it.
Okay. I think this has been very informative, and I appreciate your time. You say I've been here before, but I've never been in a beautiful home, like I said. And like I told you in the beginning, I consider you one of my mentors, and I've made a few bucks on some of the things that you've counseled me how to do. So I wish you success in the future. So this is Thomas signing off for the entrepreneurial mindset. Thank you.